April, and I work here in the Midland branch of Cabarrus County Public Library. Thanks for joining us for Animal CSI, the case of the vanishing vegetables, starring everyone's favorite animal detective, Sherlock Hedgehog. We are so excited to have our patrons joining us back in the branches this summer for Summer Reading 2021. Tales and Tales is our theme this year. If you can't make it into the branch for this program though, I've created an adaptation so you can follow along at home and solve the mystery. All you need to do to participate is just print out a copy of your Animal CSI Crime Lab worksheet, which we have provided a link in the description of this video. If you don't have access to a printer, it's no worries. You can just grab a plain piece of paper and a pencil and just sketch out your clues on that. When we finish the case, you could even create your very own hedgehog sculpture like this. We use modeling clay with some spaghetti noodles. I used googly eyes and a button to put a face on Sherlock here, but you can use any decorative items you can find around the house, like pom-poms, pieces of paper, little balls of clay, anything. And if you do create a sculpture, I would love for you to bring it into the branch and show us what you've made, or take a photo and send it to us. We love to see what you make. If you don't have Play-Doh at home, we've also included a link below to a recipe so that you can make Play-Doh at home with the help of an adult. All right, we are ready to get started on this case. So I'm going to let you pause it here and go ahead and print out your worksheet and grab a pencil. And then when you're ready to go, come back and we will get started with the mystery.
This is Animal CSI, the case of the vanishing vegetables, starring Sherlock Hedgehog and his best friend, Dr. Minnie Watson. What happened? As the sun set one summer evening, Sherlock the Hedgehog woke up to crawl around under the hedges with his friend, Dr. Minnie Watson. They were looking for insects to snack on. Hedgehogs love nothing more than to crawl around under hedges looking for insects. When Sherlock strolled past his vegetable garden, he discovered that his two best tomatoes were perfectly ripe. Look at these beautiful tomatoes, all ripe and ready to pick. When Sherlock and Dr. Watson left the garden to go insect hunting, it was almost completely dark. That's because hedgehogs and mice are nocturnal. Sherlock hunted for insects all night, and when he came home to his hedge, the sun was just coming up over the horizon. Sherlock and Dr. Watson checked his garden one last time. They discovered that his two best tomatoes had vanished. What could have happened to Sherlock's tomatoes? Let's help Sherlock and his best mouse friend, Dr. Watson, solve the mystery. First, Sherlock made a list of the animals who live near his garden. We have owl, hawk, rabbit, deer, frog, fox, and squirrel. Sherlock and Dr. Watson also found 3 sets of animal tracks in the garden. One of these must belong to the culprit. Okay, now it's the fun part. You can get out your Animal CSI Crime Lab tracking sheet. If you don't have a printer handy to print this out, you can just sketch the clues onto a plain piece of paper. We're going to use this sheet to keep track of the clues that we find. We're going to sketch out the animal tracks that we find in the garden, right here where it's labeled A, B, and C. And then we'll see if we can find out whose tracks those are. We're also going to keep up with the clues for all of these different animals and who had the opportunity and the motive to take the tomatoes. And that just means, opportunity means that they had the chance to take the tomatoes because they were awake. And then the motive means that they like to eat tomatoes. So we have to find out who was awake and who likes tomatoes. And then we'll analyze those animal tracks and solve the case. Let's start with the tracks. So Dr. Watson took photos of 3 different animal tracks that were found in the garden, and she labeled them A, B, and C. Take a close look at the next 3 pages. We're going to sketch each track in these light green spaces on your animal CSI sheet. And then we're going to collect some more evidence with Sherlock. So this is the first track that Dr. Watson found in Sherlock's garden. It is nestled amongst these delicious lettuces. And what kind of animal do you think could have made a track like that? It's a very interesting shape. Go ahead and pause your video here and sketch out the shape of this animal track on your CSI sheet. And when you finish sketching it out, then you can come back and unpause and we'll find the next track. So this is our second track, track B. It looks very different. You can pause the video here and sketch out this shape in space B on your crime lab sheet. Then come back and unpause. This is our third and final animal track that Dr. Watson found in Sherlock Hedgehog's garden. You can go ahead and pause here and sketch out this animal track in slot C on your CSI sheet. Then come back and unpause and we will continue the mystery. Now that we have all 3 animal tracks recorded, Dr. Watson is going to go around the neighborhood and collect samples from all the animals who live here. That way we can compare the samples and see which animals could have left these tracks. While Dr. Watson is doing all that, let's go with Sherlock and see if we can put together some clues about which animal could have taken the tomatoes. The first thing Sherlock wants to consider is opportunity. When are these animals awake? Who had the opportunity to take the tomatoes? We know that animals are split up into basically 3 different types. Some animals are nocturnal. That means they're active at night and then they sleep all day during the day. Can you think of any animals that are nocturnal? Some animals are diurnal, and that means that they are active during the day and they sleep at night. How about diurnal animals? Can you think of any animals that are diurnal? Humans are actually diurnal most of the time. Finally, there is a group of animals that have a very interesting name. It's called crepuscular. And these animals are active around sunrise and sunset. They sleep during the middle of the night and in the middle of the day. But around sunrise and sunset, they are the most active. Now we need to consider motive. Why would animals take a tomato? They want to eat the tomato. So what animals like to eat tomatoes? Well, we know that some animals are herbivores and they eat only plants. Tomatoes are from a plant, so an herbivore could have taken the tomatoes. We also know that some animals are carnivores, and that means they eat only animals and insects. They don't eat plants. So carnivores would not have taken the tomato to eat it. But we also know that there are some animals that are omnivores. An omnivore means they eat both plants and animals. So an omnivore could have taken the tomatoes. Let's look at our first animal neighbor. This is the squirrel. And when do you think squirrels are awake? Squirrels are usually awake during the daytime, so they are diurnal. And what do they eat? Any guesses? Squirrels are herbivores. They eat nuts and seeds and things. So here's where we can record the evidence as we look at each of these neighbors. And for squirrel, we can go ahead and circle the sun since squirrels are diurnal and they are awake during the daytime. And then since squirrels are herbivores, we can circle the little plant. And we will just keep going as we look at each of our animal neighbors and just collect the clues about the opportunity and motive for each animal. Here's our next animal. This is owl. And are owls nocturnal or are they diurnal? Do you hear them during the daytime or at night? I usually hear owls hooting at night. So owls are nocturnal, and you can circle the moon and stars next to owl. Also, what do owls eat? Owls are predators. They like to hunt for small animals. So they are carnivores. How about hawk? When are hawks awake? When do you see them flying up in the sky? I usually see those during the daytime. Hawks are diurnal. And what do they eat? They are predators like owls, so they also hunt for small animals, and they are carnivores. So you can circle the sun and the little mouse. What about frogs? Frogs, are they nocturnal or diurnal? We hear frogs peeping at night, in the summer especially. So frogs are nocturnal. And what do they eat? Well, tadpoles will eat algae and plant matter that's in ponds, but grown frogs do not eat any plants. They only eat things like insects. So they are carnivores. They are nocturnal carnivores. Next we have rabbit. And when are rabbits active? I actually usually see rabbits hopping around my yard either right around sunrise or right around sunset. So rabbits are that funny word called crepuscular. That means they sleep during the daytime and in the middle of the night, but they are up very early in the morning before the sun rises, and then they are also active again in the evening right as the sun sets. Rabbits eat plants. They are herbivores. What about deer? So I actually see deer about the same time that I usually see rabbits. They are crepuscular also. So they're active around sunrise and they're active around sunset. And they're herbivores. They like to eat plants for sure. Our last animal neighbor is fox. Do you know when foxes are usually active? They're not usually running around during the daytime. Foxes are nocturnal. They are awake at night. And foxes are one of those animals, like hedgehogs, actually, that like to eat plants and animals. They will eat berries, they will eat small animals, whatever is handy. Now that we've collected all these clues, it's time to start eliminating some suspects. We know that these tomatoes disappeared sometime when it was dark outside, after Sherlock and Dr. Watson left the garden to go hunt for more insects. We know that they left when it was dark outside and they came back around sunrise. This means since the vegetables disappeared in the dark, that a diurnal animal couldn't have taken the tomatoes. So, any of your animals on your sheet that have a sun circled next to them, we can go ahead and cross those off. They are innocent. They did not have a chance to take the tomatoes. We know we can also cross out all the suspects who are carnivores. Any of the animals that just have just the little mouse circled, we know that they don't like to eat tomatoes. So if it's a carnivore, you can cross it off your list. That animal is innocent. Dr. Watson is back. She's visited all the animals in the neighborhood to get samples of their tracks. So let's see if we can use those samples to identify which animals left the tracks that are in Sherlock's garden. So what kind of animal could have made tracks like these? Any guesses? This was Squirrel. And actually, do these look like any of the tracks that were left in the garden? They look a little bit different because they have these little round impressions under the paw pads. So I don't think Squirrel left tracks in our garden. How about these tracks? Any guesses? These are from Hawk. Do these look like any of the tracks that we found in the garden? They look a little bit like some of the tracks, but they are different. I don't think these were the exact tracks. How about these tracks? They look very familiar. Any guesses on which animal this was? These claw prints were made from owl, and those were definitely some of the ones that were found in the garden. How about these tracks? Any guesses which of our animal neighbors made a track like this? This was deer. These little hoof prints. They're very cute, and I see them a lot in my yard, but these are not the ones that were left in Sherlock's garden. Do these tracks look familiar? I definitely think we found some like this in Sherlock's garden. What kind of animal could have made an interesting looking track like that? These belong to frog with its webbed feet. Now, rabbit and fox have kind of similar paw prints. Rabbit's claws are more rounded and the pads are more oval. And fox has pointier claws and pads. So which of these prints do you guess would be rabbit? These are rabbit's prints with the nice circular little claw marks and the nice oval pads here. And then these are foxes. And foxes have pointier claws and kind of pointier pads on their paw prints too. Which ones of these paw prints were found in Sherlock's garden? I think it was foxes. Okay, we're going to stop here and don't go any further until you think you know who took the tomatoes, who had the opportunity and the motive to take these tomatoes. Go ahead and pause it, look at all of your clues, and then come back when you're ready and we'll see if you were right. Here are all of our clues. It was fox. You can see that Fox's paw print that he left in Sherlock's garden matches very well with the sample that Dr. Watson got. We know that foxes are nocturnal, they're awake during the nighttime, and we know that foxes are omnivores who eat plants and animals. They do eat berries and fruits like tomatoes. Now, fortunately, Sherlock mostly grows tomatoes in his garden to attract his very favorite foods, which are delicious insects and caterpillars. Insects love to eat tomatoes, and Sherlock loves to eat insects. Fox apologized for taking the tomatoes without asking permission, and he offered to make it up to Sherlock by digging up some scrumptious earthworms. The end. Thanks for helping us solve the case of the vanishing vegetables.
Thanks for helping us solve the case. If you love animals and mysteries, I have a couple of book suggestions for you. This one is called Dot and Jabber and the Big Bug Mystery. And Dot and Jabber have several different books with mysteries in them. This is by Ellen Stahl Walsh. Also, Agent Lion book, Agent Lion and the Case of the Missing Party by David Soman and Jackie Davis. Also, a great fun mystery. The important thing is just keep reading this summer and come on in and see us in the library if you get a chance. We are available with curbside pickup, or you can browse in the branch, and you can attend our programs by pre-registering on our website. Thanks so much. Have a great summer.